This is Local Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance. Today we're in the Inland Empire. We are joined by Mike Gardner, Riverside City Council member. He's announced his intention to run for the Board of Supervisors in Riverside County next year. Speaking of elections, the voters of Riverside in November, very generous, passed Measure Z, 1 cent increase in the sales tax.
Yes.
1 cent. It's a general sales tax, so there's some leverage, or I should say latitude, with how to spend the money. I know you have a Citizens Advisory Committee that's going to offer you some insight. What's your sense on where that, what is it, $52 million a year?
It's going to average somewhere just over $50 million. And of course, that's a projection. It's a substantial
a lot of money. I mean, that's huge.
It's a big piece. Our general fund is about $275 million now, so you add another 50, that's a good piece.
And you're segregating that money, correct?
Yes. It will be tracked separately.
I see, I see. So I believe that police and fire, that's a for sure. Is that right?
We haven't made the decision, but I can't imagine us making any other decision.
Okay, so if you were to say police and fire comes in first, and then there are two other priorities, what do you think those priorities would be? You know, kind of a consensus amongst the council, the advisory commission?
We don't have input yet from the advisory commission, so you can't tell for sure, but I think a consensus of the two major things. One is we have some economic bookkeeping, housekeeping things that we need to do.
Pensions?
We have a pension obligation bond that's a little over $31 million, interest only, so we've been rolling it over every year.
I see, I see.
And we need to get rid of that, especially as interest rates are starting to go up.
Right, right.
And the other is our general fund reserve is around 11% now. We need it to be at least 15 for the rating agencies.
Okay.
And our aspiration is to get back to 20.
Okay, so you've got kind of financial housekeeping, so let's call that priority 2. Priority 3, again, I'm not holding you to this.
General quality of life issues, things like tree trimming, street paving, better park maintenance.
Can we talk about street paving? Because I wonder if this is actually kind of a perfect storm in the best sense. So the state of California passes an increase in the sales tax.
Yes.
I misspoke, the gas tax.
Yes.
For road repairs. Now, there were 2 members of the legislature who were kind of key to whether that was going to pass.
Yes.
How convenient that they're both Riverside representatives, Senator Roth and Assemblywoman Cervantes.
Yes.
So look, legislation's like a sausage. You know, you don't know how it gets in or out, but it's tasty in the end. And so Riverside got some sweeteners. About $400 million of sweeteners.
Yes.
So you have those sweeteners in the package from California, but we also just have general monies coming down, $8 billion?
Something like that, right.
So how does Riverside leverage Measure Z, the $400 million of dedicated sweeteners, and then the general gas tax money?
A rough estimate that I've heard is that the gas tax money would bring about $3.5 million more dollars to the city of Riverside.
Aside from the sweeteners, or as part of the sweeteners?
As part of the sweeteners.
Okay.
Most of the specific projects are not within the boundaries of the city of Riverside. They're local to the region.
Well, it helps.
And a huge key of that deal was to get the vehicle license fee money back for our 4 new cities.
Did that happen?
That did. That was part of the deal.
I did not know that. And y'all have been fighting for that for years.
That's huge.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good news.
So that's
Menifee. What is it? Menifee,
Wildomar, Arupa Valley, and Eastvale.
That's great news. Okay, so
we digress.
Yeah, we digress. But so it looks like that's where the priorities are. But you'll come back and you'll let us know what ultimately is the decision of the council and the advisory committee. I want to shift gears and talk about another topic that can be transportation related, and that's marijuana, because people do drive, and they may be driving to get their marijuana. Right now, they can't drive into Riverside or out of, well, there's no medical marijuana dispensaries in the city of Riverside.
No legal ones.
No legal ones. And Riverside is the test case. It went all the way to the California Supreme Court. And the court said 7-0. Riverside, as a land use matter, can decide no medical marijuana. But now we have legal recreational marijuana.
Yes.
Begin.
Well, for beginners, any adult may grow up to 6 marijuana plants for their own recreational use, and they may possess, I believe it's up to an ounce of marijuana for medical use. You are not supposed to drive under the influence.
Well, how do we know if you're under the influence of marijuana?
It's difficult to tell. The tests are not specific as to how much is in your system or if you're under the influence. The tests that exist test for something that stays in your system long after the effects have worn.
Let me tell you my concern. Riverside is a large city geographically. I mean, when you're on the freeway and you pass, let's say, Ontario Airport, you're essentially in the beginning of Riverside, essentially. I mean, there's a little
Getting
more.
close.
Yeah, but just an exit or two. And then you go for miles, and you're in Riverside. It takes a while to get to Moreno Valley. If you don't have any medical or recreational marijuana dispensaries, that means people are driving elsewhere. And so that's of concern to me.
Well, and with recreational marijuana, it's a different issue than medical marijuana, I think. I believe that a very high percentage of the medical marijuana users don't drive under the influence, whereas recreational may.
I just wonder, you know, are you cutting off your nose to spite your face if the city continues to be recalcitrant and say, no dispensaries, no storefronts, no marijuana sales in the city?
We'll see if that happens. My guess is it doesn't.
Really? Really?
This is something that the city will take up probably in July. We need to get through the budget first, get all that behind us. But then Proposition 64 and its ramifications it's a huge public policy question.
And could be a source of revenue.
It will be some source of revenue. It could be a very large source of revenue if you are permitting and taxing very large production grows.
Well, our friends in Adelanto are, I mean, they've basically, their budget is booming because they're allowing indoor grows.
Right.
And so I don't know if that's where Riverside wants to go, but look, I mean, we got warehouse space, could be indoor grow space.
It could be. I think the decision on retail sales points is a fairly easy one for Riverside. My belief is that we will approve at least locations, parts of the city where it's possible with, and maybe not a number, although a de facto number, because I think it will be only in these locations and they have to be X feet apart. So you can only cram so many into
I'm surprised you're saying that. Not that, it's just because Riverside was so recalcitrant on the medical issue.
The reality is people are going to buy it in adjoining areas. They're going to bring it back to Riverside. They're going to use it in Riverside. That's going to have some level of effects that will cost the city some money. We may as well get some tax revenue to help pay for the services that will be required to deal with that.
One could say.
So I think that's the argument for the bigger hurdle, I think, for our council and maybe our residents is, what do you want to do about commercial growing? Do you want to allow that? If you do, is it indoor only?
Right.
What do you want to do?
Right.
That's going to be a tougher argument.
What are you hearing?
There's a real mix. People are saying, as you pointed out, you know, there's some warehouse space available. There's property you could build more warehouses on. We have the Greenbelt.
Yes, you do.
And I mean, that's a whole question in itself. From a legal perspective, is commercial growing of marijuana agriculture, and therefore is it by definition allowed in Riverside's Greenbelt?
His name is Mike Gardner. He is a member of the Riverside City Council, candidate for Board of Supervisors in Riverside County, where we are today. My name is Brad Pomerance. We're so glad you've joined us on Local Edition.